We welcome you into a brand new episode of Inside Boxing Live, fresh from Las Vegas, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury reaction show. I'm your host, Dan CANOBBIO. Joining me on the show today, you know him, CURRAN BHATIA, the Ask the Experts podcast host. We're going to break down everything, the nuts and bolts of Deontay Wilder's huge loss to Tyson Fury, how Tyson Fury is now the new king of the heavyweight division and maybe the new face of boxing. I landed yesterday back in New York. What a weekend it was in Las Vegas. From the minute we touched down there to the minute that we left, sensory overload, so much going on. It truly was the boxing Super Bowl between two of the best heavyweights in the world, two networks coming together, and it delivered. It wasn't a fight that had a controversial decision, and that may alter the thirst for the third fight. Will fans want to see that third fight? Because that's what the discussion now is. Will we see Tyson Fury go for Anthony Joshua and make a unification bout? We have it right here, an all-British unification bout. Eddie Hearn has been on record saying that he wants that fight. But going back to the experience in Las Vegas, everyone was out there. All the fighters, all the celebrities, all the executives, Top Rank and ESPN, PBC and Fox, everyone playing nice, everyone bringing boxing, a big-time fight to the masses. And this was a huge fight. I mean, you had people, I always gauge one of these big-time mainstream fights on how many people start hitting me up for picks, start asking me what time the fight's starting, how do I order it, and I was getting texts from friends and messages from friends that I had no clue watched the sport of boxing, but it's like, hey, well, what time does the fight start, and how do we watch? And so I would tell them, and then afterwards it's like, what's the deal with this Tyson Fury guy? Is he the real deal? I love him. I love that he sings in the ring. I love everything he's about. Did he really lick the blood off of Wilder's neck? Yes. This is who Tyson Fury is, and I think that he is now the face of boxing. But the actual fight itself, I mean, I was shocked. Absolutely shocked about how he took the fight to Deontay Wilder. I thought there was no way he was going to be able to do that. I thought it was just a tactical move or a mental move from Fury to get into the head of Deontay Wilder. But, I mean, he went out there and he laid the fight on from the very first round on. I got the CompuBox punch stats right here. And the stat that really jumps out to me is the power punching. Tyson Fury said that this was going to be a fight where he's going to sit down on his punches. He's going to throw more, a lot of body shots too, a lot of hooks, and take the fight and knock out Deontay Wilder. Said he was going to do it in the second round. Ultimately, he came in the seventh, knocked him down 2 times officially, but Wilder was all over that ring. There was almost a point where Tyson Fury flew out of the ring through the ropes. It was pandemonium in there. But the stat that sticks out to me is the power punch. 58-18 edge for Tyson Fury. He landed 13 body shots, and that's maybe not a lot through 7 rounds, but it was when and where he was landing those body shots. I thought that was a big part of the fight tactically. But Tyson Fury, he's the guy now. He is the man. But let's not write off Deontay Wilder. I'm seeing a lot of things on Twitter, a lot of memes, and you expect that with the internet. They're going to go and they're going to do that. But this is a guy that has been on top for a very long time, has the KO streak. He's still the biggest puncher in the division. That's why he'll always have a shot, and that's why I think he will ultimately exercise that clause in the contract. He's got 30 days to do it, but I'm going to get into more. We got a lot to cover here. I was partying in Vegas with Team Top Rank afterward. I was everywhere you got to be, the boxing media tournament also, but coming up next, we got the standing 8 count with CURRAN BHATIA. Okay, I got my guy here with me. He's CURRAN BHATIA. You know him as the host of the Ask the Expert podcast. Before that, he was with HBO Sports boxing division, won a lot of Emmys, and now we're going to talk some boxing. CURRAN, I got to talk about this weekend. I got to talk to someone about this past weekend. Sensory overload for me, just a thrill a minute in Las Vegas. It had big fight feels. I know you were home watching it on TV. I want to get your thoughts on watching it home versus how it came off on the broadcast, how it was live there. I'm on no sleep right now. A lot of adrenaline flowing. First of all, how are you? Thanks for joining me.
Dan, thanks for having me again. Love this segment. So, this massive event, massive fight. I'll be your therapist. You can vent to me and tell me about everything that happened this weekend and all the amazingness of being there in person. Watching it at home, it was fun. It was like a Super Bowl atmosphere, right? Everyone had their parties, having friends over, getting some drinks, and watching the big fight. It felt like our sport was back. And you know, one thing that was big for me is that now that casuals, sports fans are watching this, it isn't a 12-round technical Mayweather fight. This is a big heavyweight matchup. We're getting nice knockouts. We're getting action. And watching it at home, it seemed spectacular. What was it like being in that arena? Tell me about being in that arena when Tyson Fury is being brought out on that throne. What was
Unbelievable. First of all, I saw the throne. Like, we went early to the arena to do our fact check, and I walked past it. I was like, wait a second. I was like, was that a throne? And then I heard rumblings that Fury was going to do something crazy.
Yeah.
And I tweeted something out, like, not the picture of the throne, because that would have probably got me kicked out. And I don't want to get on Top Rank's bad side there. But I put out a tweet, like, Tyson Fury's ring entrance is going to be off the charts with the crown emoji. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I had a very close seat doing the CompuBox work, and it was all the theatrics. I mean, it felt big. Like, the undercard was not that good, and it was funny because it was empty in there for the undercard as per usual.
A little bit of a snooze fest.
You know, as the hours went on, more and more people started filling in. I went to the bathroom, I saw the logo, Jerry West. Was walking around, I saw Stephen A. Smith. You know, so Magic Johnson walked in. You had Dana White walk in. You had Adele walk in. I mean, that you started to get the feeling. And then by the time Charles Martin finally knocked out Gerald Washington, thank you, Charles Martin, fever pitch. It ratcheted up there. Everything went crazy. The guy that does I don't know his name. I think his name is Mark. The guy that does the in-arena stuff for Top Rank and the Vegas Knights. He was doing a great job building it up. I remember vividly he was like in the crowd. He's like, "Who's ready for Wilder Fury?" And I was like, "Wow, we're finally here." Yeah, the ring entrance was awesome. I want to see how did it play out on TV. So usually when you're there is different than watching on TV.
Yeah, so I was really impressed with the broadcast because they played up the big fight feel, and I'll tell you why. So Tyson Fury is going on his car on the Las Vegas Strip. They had a live helicopter shot. Now that isn't normal for a big fight. They pulled out all the stops. Another thing I liked is that I think there was no questions about, is this undercard relevant? The undercard, no offense to those fighters, but it wasn't relevant based on the big fight to come. So they followed Wilder walking from one end of...
That was a Henry Hill moment.
Yeah, it seemed like one end of the strip to the other, and you're saying, hey, a guy who had an injured leg was walking that way?
Yeah, exactly. He not only did he pace back in the locker room, we're going to touch on everything possibly there is to break down in an upcoming segment here, but now we're just messing around. But you're right. He was that walk in, him pacing around in the locker room.
It was a big event, and I also liked the live locker room shots. That was cool, seeing these guys react to being on the camera. Wilder was focused, Fury was goofing around. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Being in there, we talked about Fury's entrance. Who had a bigger entrance? Because Wilder also had, I think, a $60,000 outfit, and he came out, and it really looked big also. So what was bigger? Which walkout was
I thought
bigger?
Fury's was bigger. I thought it was more grand. He milked it a little more. But one thing I love about this Top Rank and ESPN and Fox coming together is that they put the ring walks on ESPN SportsCenter. That just showed you...
Huge.
They put all their resources. And shout out to everyone that was involved with this lead up, from the media to the fighters, to Fox, to ESPN, to everyone there. It was an awesome fight, and we're going to get very much into the fight. Tyson Fury is the new king. He is the guy in the heavyweight division. He's the guy in boxing. His profile is about to kick off. But jumping to the end of the night, found myself at the Top Rank CAA party. Bob Arum dancing, legitimately dancing, celebrating the fact that he has the heavyweight champion. Ran over to the Tyson Fury post-fight party.
Did you get up on the DJ stage with Tyson Fury?
It's a long story.
The ones and twos?
It's a long story. It's a long story. Me and Teofimo Lopez went over to that party. I was riding his coattails after that fight. But I mean, awesome weekend, just unbelievable. Really lived up to the hype. A fight where we saw a concrete winner in Tyson Fury. I mean, a thrill a minute in Las Vegas, and we're gonna break it all down. Coming up next, standing 8 count Wilder Fury reaction. Curran, let's jump right into it. Tyson Fury's performance. Many people are saying it's the best performance from a British fighter, not just a heavyweight. A lot of people are saying it's one of the best heavyweight performances of all time, given the circumstances. 2 undefeated fighters, given how Deontay Wilder looked in his career. I think it's right up there. It's up there with Mike Tyson's destruction of Spinks. It's up there with George Foreman and what he did to Michael Moore. Listen, I doubted Tyson Fury this entire lead up to this fight. I'm on the record as picking Deontay Wilder to win. I think I'm eating crow along with a lot of other people that picked Deontay Wilder. I said there's no way that Tyson Fury was going to come in at 270 pounds, and he did. I said, there's no way he's going to walk down Wilder. First second of the very first round, he walked down Deontay Wilder. An unbelievable performance, a shocking performance from Tyson Fury. Your thoughts on what we saw Saturday night in Las Vegas?
Yeah, so how would you rate Tyson Fury's performance? A+++, 20 out of 10 maybe? So if you look at how to beat a one-punch knockout type of guy like Wilder, right? You can do a couple different things. You can move around and dance, and that's what Fury did in the first fight. And then he said, wait a minute, I still got clipped, and I still got knocked down. So the other way, which is a lot more dangerous, is to gain a lot of weight and go at that guy super hard. And Fury did that from the opening bell. You could see him sprinting right at Wilder. And yes, okay, that was just maybe a little bit of head games, but that's showing his intent. And you know what's so crazy about it is Fury told us all that he was going to go for the second round knockout, and I don't think anyone believed him.
We got a third round knockdown.
We got a knockdown, and then of course the 7th round finish. But Fury is so crazy that he said he was going to do it, and then he actually backed it up. He bulked up to 273 pounds, and he actually made that happen. So you can't give enough high marks to Tyson Fury for doing that.
I mean, you take a look at the punch stats, 58-18 in the power punch department. Obviously, the edge goes to Tyson Fury there. And he said he was going to bring the fight to him, and he did that. And you talk about how he came running out of the gate. First of all, the anticipation in that arena, we're going to touch on it in a little bit, was just through the roof. The ring walks, everything. It was like at the ultimate theater to see him, walk in or get carried in with that crown on and that whole entrance, and to talk the talk, walk the walk. Right now, I'm sorry, Canelo Alvarez, but Tyson Fury is the face of boxing. It's going to be great for the heavyweight division. I mean, he's the king now. There was no doubt he had the crown on. He's the king.
He's on top of the sport. Max Kellerman said it after the broadcast. He said, now we got to start talking about pound for pound, right? And where does this guy fit in? He is the king, and he backed it up, and then he sung a song after. I mean, I can't even imagine it being what it was like being there for you, just next to this amazing virtuoso performance.
I mean, it was unbelievable. Like I said, I felt like I was in a simulation. I felt like I was in a real-life Rocky movie.
Yes.
The crowd was going nuts. I had one of the best seats in the house. I'm so damn lucky to be able to be there and experience weekends like that. But Tyson Fury is your new king in the heavyweight division and in boxing.
He's on top of the heap, and Wilder had that success early on, landing the 1-2s in round 1, and then it just seemed to just go away. Now, he talked about after, which we'll get into, the leg. Maybe he had a leg injury. Seemed like his equilibrium was off. He got hit in the ear. So there's things going on there, but it was Tyson Fury's night and his performance. Tyson Fury looked so good and so dominant, and he's never been beaten. So here's my question for you, Dan. Will Tyson Fury ever be beat?
Well, I don't think that any man in boxing is totally invincible, but Tyson Fury right now is looking just like that, especially in the heavyweight division. I don't think he can be beat with the current crop of heavyweights that are out there. I think that Tyson Fury has everything going for him. There's no new wrinkle to his game where he can walk down opponents, something he's never done in his career. Something that I doubted and a lot of people doubted was he's going to come into this fight with fighting a new style. And a lot of times we see this when a guy fights a new style, or they're in between styles, and that's the worst thing you can do for a fighter. But that wasn't the case for Fury in this fight. He walked him down. He's got power now. He's able to walk fighters down. We know about his defense, and we know about his chin. We saw that in the first fight, how he was able to get up against Deontay Wilder. I think the only thing that could stop Tyson Fury from achieving even more now, being the first undisputed heavyweight champion since Lennox Lewis, is himself. I mean, the guy, we know about his mental health issues. Yep. He's now gotten to the peak once again. Last time he was at the peak when he defeated Vladimir Klitschko, he fell into that deep, dark depression. I really hope that doesn't happen, but I think the only person that can stop Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury himself.
I'm going to take it another way, and I'm going to say, can Tyson Fury be beat? Yes, because we've seen him be vulnerable, right? So ask that question to Otto Wallin, right, who had success against Tyson Fury. Ask that question to Vladimir Klitschko, who didn't throw in their first fight and prepared very hard for their rematch, a rematch that never happened because, as you said, Tyson Fury went into a deep depression and kind of went off the deep end there. Now, what if Vladimir Klitschko had come in more motivated, making changes, which we know he's done in his career? He may have had a chance. Ask Steve Cunningham, who knocked him down and maybe wished that he kind of capitalized on that second round opportunity he had against Tyson Fury. Ask Anthony Joshua. Joshua's improved, changed his style. Maybe he would have success against Tyson Fury. What about Luis Ortiz? What about Andy Ruiz, a motivated Andy Ruiz? At the end of the day, Tyson Fury is undefeated, and you can't say that he should have maybe lost those fights because it's the old Bill Parcells saying, right? You are what your record says you are. Yeah. Tyson Fury is undefeated, and he's got through all those people that we just talked about. But can he be beat? I say yes, because just like any other fighter, any other heavyweight, there's vulnerabilities. We've seen him rocked. We've seen him knocked down. We've seen him go off the deep end and gain weight and do all these things. Mm-hmm. because of the vulnerabilities, I say yes, he can be beat.
But also in the ring, we saw him get knocked down twice. Twice. In the first fight with Deontay Wilder, we saw him get knocked down by Steve Cunningham.
Yep.
But, he's always got back up. That's the thing. But if you take a look at what he has said, Tyson Fury at least, for his next 3 fights, whether Deontay Wilder exercises that third fight, that remains to be seen. But he also said he wants to fight Dillian White. He also said he wants to fight Anthony Joshua, who has 3 of those belts. This is the heavyweight division. One punch can change it all. He landed the punch on Wilder that ultimately, messed up his equilibrium. Maybe that doesn't happen in another fight, and then we'll see just how if he can get up again from a punch from another heavyweight. Curran, a big-time performance from Tyson Fury, and sadly in this boxing world, you're only as good as your last fight. We're ready to move on to the next one, so I'll ask you, what is next for Tyson Fury?
What is next? Well, we all know the ball is in Deontay Wilder's court. He has 30 days to exercise the immediate rematch. I personally think he will do that. Let's say he doesn't. Anthony Joshua is most likely going to fight Pulev, and then that fight could happen, which would be a massive fight in the UK, massive fight worldwide, because then you'd have the lineal and WBC champ versus the other 3 belts. That would be the first time that kind of unification has happened in the modern 4-belt era. Those are possible options. The other option is not great for Tyson Fury, and this is what happened when he beat Vladimir Klitschko. He got to the mountaintop and said, whoa, this is all there is. And one thing that happened quickly after that fight was that the IBF stripped Fury. That led him to his depression. He gained 400 pounds and became suicidal, right? So no one wants to see that. We'd like to see him continue to train, continue to be active, and hopefully take on Wilder again, hopefully take on Anthony Joshua. We'd like to see him be active.
Well, you said that he got to the mountaintop, and there's no much more that he can accomplish. He has now won a belt, every possible belt there is to win, but not all of them at the same time. He still has one thing. This is a fighter that obviously has to be very motivated in order to win. There was still some motivation for him to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I would not be surprised if Fury says, you know what, I don't want Deontay Wilder again, but it's not really his choice. So if they got to work that out. If something happens with Deontay Wilder and he says, I don't want the third fight right away, I would not be surprised if Tyson Fury says, you know what, I'm going to do this fight with Anthony Joshua. 90,000 at Wembley Stadium. Eddie Hearn has already been on record. He sent out a tweet, and he also did an interview where he said, we have 2 of the top heavyweights in boxing right now are 2 British fighters. We can go for the undisputed heavyweight title of the world, a Brit versus a Brit at Wembley Stadium. He said we would be clowns. He literally said that. We would be idiots not to do this fight. And I also think they have to do it, considering how the Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder negotiations fizzled out. I don't know who you want to point the blame to. People will still debate who takes the blame for that fight never happening. Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua have a second chance to make an undisputed heavyweight title fight, an all-British matchup. That's what I would want to see next. As badly as I want to see a third fight with Deontay Wilder and for him to get back up, we'll talk about that next. I want to see this unification fight.
No one wants to see over-marination, right, that happened with Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Fury, also his father has come out and said that he should retire, right? Now, Fury tried retirement. This is even before the Klitschko fight. And he said he tried everything. He had it all, right? He had money, he was partying, he was going to the bars, he tried golf, he tried it all. And
drinking Diet Cokes like they're going out of style.
Exactly, and probably doing more than that. But he couldn't, it didn't work for him, right? Not having that fighting. He's fought since he was a kid, right? He was part of the gypsy culture, the travelers. This is in his blood. So if he doesn't have that, bad things happen. So I don't think retirement is necessarily in the cards for him because he tried it didn't work. To your point, we all want to see him versus Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder at some point. Let's hope that happens. Let's hope that he stays active.
I also think the endorsements. People are texting me, who is this Tyson Fury guy? People that never watch boxing, so I would not be surprised to see him popping up on US TV. The guy's got it all, and he's the king in the heavyweight division.
And he wants to become a musician. He wants to fight in MMA. He's already done WWE. I mean, he's perfect for WWE. So there's a lot of options even outside of boxing for him to stay active. So we talked about what is next for Tyson Fury. Let me ask you this, Dan. What's next for Deontay Wilder?
Well, clearly my last answer kind of gives away what I want to see next, and that's obviously Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. We'll talk about Deontay Wilder. Certainly has a lot of options like out in the ring. He can fight Andy Ruiz. He can fight Adam Konaki. There's a ton of fights out there for him to be made. But let's talk about the psyche of Deontay Wilder. This was a guy that was on the brink of superstardom, especially here in the U.S. If he finds a way to beat Tyson Fury in this fight, he is a megastar in the U.S. Throw in the fact that he had never been beaten in his career. Throw in the fact that he had 10 straight title defenses, one more. He would have passed Muhammad Ali on the all-time list there. That's when you start to think about the human that is Deontay Wilder and what he must have been feeling after this fight when you saw the video of him laying on that medical table, towels all over his lip, his ear, getting stitched up. He had his wife next to him, his kids. I mean, that's the part of boxing that I think a lot of fans don't think about. They move right on to what's next, and you see the memes and everything of Wilder. I think that are very. I mean, you expect it now, but I think those are a little much given what he has done in the boxing world. But you think about his whole world come crashing down, what he must be thinking about, and not on top of it, all the injuries that he sustained in this fight. Talk about a leg injury he might have had, the ear. He needs to take some time and reflect before he figures out exactly what he wants to do.
So it's an interesting thing that happens to a fighter who was undefeated and now gets their first loss, right? That can change your entire persona, your entire psyche. In a way, maybe it's a good thing. This could be the best thing that ever happened to Deontay Wilder, and I'll tell you what. He's 34 years old, and it's going to be time for him now to take some self-re-evaluation. Look at his team. Now, we know that Mark Breland, who's one of his co-trainers, was the one who threw in the towel. His other co-trainer, JD's, said he didn't agree with that. So there's already some differences there in terms of your team. You could call it necessarily infighting. He needs to reevaluate. It's like a company that's doing really well and profits are great, and then the economy goes down. Now you got to bring in the consultants, the two Bobs from Office Space, and say, let's look at all the things here and see what's working and what's not. And that's why I say that type of evaluation probably never happened for Deontay Wilder, because he was beating everyone. He was undefeated. So now is the first time he can actually look at where he trains, how he trains, who he trains with, and he may come back better than ever.
Like you always say in boxing, so much importance is put on that O next to your name, being undefeated, right. and Floyd Mayweather pretty much, campaigned that whole mantra of being undefeated and the aura that is around that. I think this really was everything that Deontay Wilder was built about, mostly because of how he would win. The knockouts. He would knock guys out and erase them. So therefore, his whole air of invincibility is now gone. And you're right, a lot of self-reflection. And obviously, we talked about that, but what's next for him in the ring? There are a lot of options. I'm sure he wants to get back in there with Tyson Fury, but there's a ton of other names that he can jump in there if that fight doesn't get made.
Ruiz, Ortiz, and then, of course, he's got to rehab that leg.
Okay, Curran, before we move on to the business stuff and all the fun stuff that happened in Las Vegas, the only controversy that was really in this fight, since it was such a one-sided fight for Tyson Fury, was the towel being thrown in from the corner of Deontay Wilder. You had JD's coming out and saying that he wouldn't have thrown it out there. What do you think happened there, and what's your take on if this fight should have been stopped at that time?
We've talked so much about fighters' safety, and it is important that fights get stopped. The only thing I'll say about this overall performance, and I'm going to preface this by saying Tyson Fury gets all the credit in the world. He came in with a great game plan. He dominated the fight.
What's coming next?
Okay, that was the disclaimer. The only thing I'll say is, let's say that Tyson Fury did knock out maybe the eardrum for Deontay Wilder. That could throw off his equilibrium. If your equilibrium is thrown off, your punches are going to be missing by 1 second, and it seemed like that was happening in the first round with the 1-2s barely missing, right? The right hand was barely missing for Wilder, and his balance was way off, and that was apparent. These were hard knockdowns by Fury, but at the same time, Wilder's balance wasn't there, right? He seemed like he was kind of falling all over the ring. So, should the fight have been stopped? Yes. Is it a good stoppage? Yes, but if there's anything to debate, it's to say, could maybe Wilder have weathered the storm, right? The way he did against Luis Ortiz in that 7th round. If you look at the end of the fight, Wilder's throwing the left hook as the towel comes in. That's the argument that could be made if you are on Team Wilder and you want to make an argument. I think it was a good stoppage, but that is a hypothetical argument that someone could make.
All right, I'm going to respectfully, I wouldn't say disagree, because you obviously know that the fight should have been stopped. But right. I also think it should have been stopped in the 5th round. Okay. I had one of the best seats in the house, being able to see Deontay Wilder's eyes. There was nothing there. He looked like he was drunk in there. He had no legs from the start. I don't know if it was an eardrum, because Shelley Finkel and Team Wilder has come out and said it's not a ruptured eardrum. Wilder didn't even go to the hospital. He was bleeding out of the ear from a cut, but I don't know. Something happened in there where he didn't have his legs, whether he had a leg injury or the fact that his equilibrium was a little bit off. But seeing him up close, he wasn't throwing punches. He barely threw any punches, and that's the ultimate sign that a fight needs to be stopped. Going on to the towel being thrown in, I love that move from Mark Breland. Mark Breland's a guy that was been in the ring before and has taken punishment and knows what it takes. He is looking out for what the most important thing, one of the most important jobs being in the corner is knowing if your fighter's taking punishment, knowing when to stop the fight so they can live to fight another day. Mark Breland doesn't care if he gets fired. He cares about fighter safety. I think JD's throwing him under the bus in the press conference afterwards was completely out of line, and I like JD's, but it seemed like that was a move. I want to keep my job.
The final punch stats provided by CompuBox, 82-34, so Wilder was way outlanded there, Fury landing much more. The thing about Mark Breland throwing in the towel is it helps the warrior mentality for Wilder, because he can say, hey, I wanted to go out of my shield, and his trainer can say, hey, we wanted to protect our guy, so that helps his invincibility aura and say, hey, I was never in jeopardy of wanting to quit myself. You guys made that decision for me. The other part of it, you could call it controversy not, is that at the end, the post-fight interview, we've been talking about this, Wilder says, I don't want to make any excuses, but I came into this camp with a bad leg. Well, we want to learn a little bit more about that. How bad was it? Why did you take the fight if the leg was that bad? You can't lose the fight and then say, oh, it was because of the leg. We know usually on a big fight weekend, there's maybe one big promoter, one big network. We know ESPN handled the production, but this was a Fox, ESPN, a PBC, a Top Rank. It was a joint venture, a joint production. Dan, you were there. You were hobnobbing with the top executives from both networks. So what was that like, having both of these entities, all of these entities coming together for this big event?
Right. The first moment I walked into the media center, when I saw Evan Korn from Top Rank and I saw Tim Smith from the PBC, I went, whoa. I've never seen these guys in the same room together. This is going to be crazy. But the initial reaction was, this is the Super Bowl of boxing. I mean, it really felt like that. You had Terrence Crawford walking around the media center. You had Shakur Stevenson walking around the media center, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, not to mention all the executives behind the scenes from Top Rank and ESPN. I actually had a moment to talk to Todd DeBuff. Of course, he is Bob Arum's stepson, and he's also a very important member of Top Rank. He said it couldn't have gone any smoother. He says if there was a problem in this lead-up, he would call Al, or Al would call him, and it was hashed out within minutes. Music to my ears, and I think that's music to a lot of boxing fans' ears. I was absolutely shocked talking to people around the fight and this lead-up about how happy they were and how everyone got along so well. And it's so, you know how boxing politics work. It was refreshing to hear. And it leads me to believe, obviously, the next big fight we want to see from these two stables is Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. And just seeing how everyone got along so well, I would not be surprised if that's not in the near future.
So I'll give it to you from a different perspective. You were there seeing how it worked in the media room and behind the scenes. Watching it at home, right? People were treating this like almost like the Super Bowl, right? People were having parties, right? Yep. They were inviting their friends over. This is the one that you want to call your friends and say, hey, we finally have a big boxing match. And I think the fact that it was on Fox and ESPN, so you had both the marketing arms, these giant marketing arms in terms of pre-production and storytelling, were able to set up this huge event, right? It didn't hurt that you had an amazing event on top of it all. But, so I think it was almost the relationship of these guys coming together showed it was successful in that way because it was part of the public conversation in terms of sports fans overall. Mm-hmm. So now the question turns to what else? How can we continue to ride this, like you said? And that is Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Now, funny enough, I know that you posted a picture. They were sitting one row in front of the next.
Wait, did you see Spence? He posted a thing and he said, who put all these top-ranked people, who seated me next to them? Because it was an awkward photo of Terrence Crawford smiling with Arum in it and his sister, and he had Errol Spence kind of sitting like...
Right.
But, you know, that's not... Those fighters will always have that animosity, but the powers that be to make these fights seem like they don't. And they would be smart to do this. Listen, Fox and ESPN, they can come together and they want to squash DAZN. This is the way to do it. I want to see DAZN succeed. I think every boxing fan wants to see that happen, but I'm not an executive. You know, I don't have share. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter to me what they do. But yeah, I ultimately think that fight will happen. I know that there's the third fight between Wilder and Fury is contractually obligated to happen. Maybe if that fight falls through, who knows if they said, hey, we got the groundwork already laid here. Let's make Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford and really start cashing in and make all the boxing fans happy. Let's see if it happens. First mega fight of the decade, first mega fight of the year is in the books, Wilder and Fury. Now we got to look forward. What is the next big mega fight that can be made? Because there really isn't any on the schedule ironclad.
So we got to look at what fights that we can hopefully have, right? Because no offense to Mikey Garcia or Jesse Vargas or whoever, but there's not that many mega fights already made. What could happen this year? Well, we know Canelo Triple G3 could happen. We talked a lot about Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. Now that this PBC and Top Rank situation's happening and they have a working relationship, maybe that could happen, right? That would be great. Tyson Fury fighting Wilder for the third time would be great. Tyson Fury fighting Anthony Joshua would be great. These are all great. I'm going to throw out something else. What happened to Mayweather putting out those Conor McGregor and Khabib situation? You know, those Instagram posts. Are those fights happening? So those, not necessarily a mega fight, but that would be a mega events, right? So it's possible that these mega events could happen this year, and this could be a huge year in boxing depending on where the pieces fall.
Well, the biggest fight to be made is Logan Paul versus KSI. No, stop. I was with, I think it's Teofimo versus Lomachenko. I was with Teofimo a lot this past weekend. I spent a lot of time with him. We may have crashed Tyson Fury's post-fight party at Hakkasan at the MGM. That's a story for another day and for another podcast. But, you know, getting to talk to him, it seems like that fight's going to happen. They're kind of just getting over the last second hurdles, money and where he wants to be. Teofimo wants it in New York, and talking to Aram as well, he thinks the fight will end up in New York. It's the only place that fight can be, but that's the next biggest fight. That is all 4 belts on the line. I don't care about the franchise stuff. It's all 4 belts. It's an undisputed fight between an up-and-coming guy and Teofimo Lopez. Let me just tell you, walking around the MGM with Teofimo Lopez, he was trying to tell me that, he's a modest kid. No one really knows who I am. No one notices me. He was getting flooded for photos. Fans love him. I think the boxing media has a lot of respect for him. This next big thing in boxing, he's doing it the right way by knocking guys out. He's very, very confident that he can take out Lomachenko. I think that's the next biggest fight in boxing.
That is going to be a huge fight, and the fact that that is very close to being finalized is great for us as boxing fans. Another name that we didn't mention in the first list was Manny Pacquiao. He hasn't fought in a little while, and it depends where does he land, right? If he fights Mayweather, is that a mega fight? Yeah, even though that we probably don't want to necessarily see it again as boxing fan, it's a mega event.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I did get some. I'm not cut my carpenter with the sources, but
hold on.
You can expect Manny Pacquiao in the ring in July against a guy that goes by the name of Danny Swift Garcia. That is the latest rumor, so maybe we'll see that.
Is that a confirmed? Can we put that on the schedule as a mega fight?
I'm not trying to break news, because if the whole story of breaking news is if you can't do it every day, don't do it. But being in Vegas and being around some of the people that make fights is expect Pacquiao to come back in July.
And would that mean, what does that put for Errol Spence there then?
I don't know. Tune-up fight. He was in attendance. He looked actually a lot better. So who knows? There's a lot of big names, a lot of big fights, a lot of stuff going on in boxing.
I want to see Dan Rafael. I want to see him box Ellie Setback. I feel like that'd be the funniest fight of the tournament.
That is a weight discrepancy right there. That's not going to work.
Man, weight class don't count in these tournaments, man. It's special bouts. Ak and Barack.
Oh, man.
You got
Barack's a big dude.
Yeah, he's say Mike Coppinger versus Ellie.
That's more like it. That's better. Yeah, that's better.
Like there you have it, the boxing media tournament. This is what everyone has been calling for. The fans want it, Dan. They want to see boxing media fight against each other in a tournament. So, who's going to fight who? What are the matchups? What are we doing here?
Just a good question what we're doing here. Let's just start off this by saying that this is silly and this is ultimately fun. And this boxing media tournament almost overshadowed the main event on Saturday night.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. But Lance Pugmire was tweeting about it that the undercard was so terrible that all we're talking about is this boxing media tournament. And obviously, I talked to Shakur and it got the ball really rolling for this. People were talking about it, at the bars, and then I was talking to even Kate Abdo brought it up. She wants to see Brock Bess in there with a really good competitive matchup.
Are people filling out brackets
People
yet?
are filling out brackets, so listen, we're making the definitive one.
DraftKings involved, putting money down.
Well, that we're going to start making some money here.
Yes.
Let's put it together finally. This is the ultimate, it's an 8-man tournament, and I'm starting it off with the heavies. Right out of the gate, Yahoo Sports versus ESPN. It's Kevin Iole versus Dan Rafael. We're going to start off this tournament with a bang with those two big guys. Moving on, Chris Mannix versus Mike Coppinger. Chris Mannix with, what is Chris Mannix with these? Yahoo? Yes, he's with Yahoo. Sports Illustrated. Versus Mike Coppinger at The Athletic. They both break news.
Right.
First off, those two fights, how do you see those going?
Well, that's two big fights, right? Clash of the Titans. Aioli's been around for a long time. He's got a lot of experience, right? Same with Dan Rafael. So it's people that have rounds under their belt, their experience, and that could be a big matchup. And then you talked about Coppinger versus Mannix, right? So there's a lot of breaking news is always there. They're competing for stories, and now they're going to be competing in the ring.
Right.
Ooh, that's another close one. I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Moving forward here with this fight, I think it's all going to be awesome. Barack Bess from Mock and Barack fame is a big dude. He is jacked out of his mind. I know that I think Shakur threw out him fighting a lot of smaller guys. It's not going to work. I want these fights to actually be competitive.
They need to be competitive, right?
So another guy, Steve Kim. I don't know if you know this. Steve Kim's pretty jacked. Pretty big guy.
Always hitting the gym.
Always hitting the gym.
Yes.
He does his podcast with Mario Lopez. Mario Lopez is obviously ripped. Right. Barack Bess versus Steve Kim. I like that matchup. And finally out, this tournament here is the YouTube stars. Ellie Seckbach reporting versus Marcos Villegas in the battle of the YouTube clicks and likes. That's my last fight.
As you're setting this up, I think it's going to be 8-on-1. 8 of these reporters versus you.
No, they love it. They love it. People were coming up to me. I mean, I told you, they were coming up to me trying to make these fights.
And so do you think this YouTubers, is that going to have the same popularity as the way that Logan Paul and KSI, that it's Ellie Seckbach, the people have us following?
Listen, don't give the zone any ideas here. They'll throw Ellie Seckbach versus Marcos Villegas on an undercard.
This is a great tournament. So you're putting this together and this is going to happen.
Right. CompuBox, Dan CANOBBIO, Inside Boxing Live. The official boxing media tournament is set. It is up to you, boxing media, to make this happen.